Welcome back to another episode of Game Planning Tips. I'm Coach Keith Grabowski, and this episode is presented by Lauren's First and Goal Foundation. Lauren's First and Goal provides support for families battling pediatric cancer and funds life-saving research. And through their annual coaching clinics, they've raised over $2 million for that cause. To learn more or get involved, visit lawrencefirstandgoal.org. Each week in this series, we explore practical ways to sharpen your process on offense, defense, and special teams by learning directly from coaches who do it at a high level. In today's episode, we start on offense with a look at openers and firsts, how to script your early plays and anticipate reactions. Then we move to defense with Brian Michalowski, linebackers coach at Oregon, who explains how to design a pressure plan that fits your personnel. And we'll close with Ben Kotwika, special teams coach for the Los Angeles Rams, who shares how clarity of mission and innovative teaching can elevate special teams performance. Let's start on offense. Your first 10 to 15 plays are more than just a start. They're an opportunity to gather information, test alignments, and establish rhythm. Scripting your openers allows you to make decisions from preparation instead of emotion. With that script, plan for your first, the first play after a big gain, a turnover, a penalty, or the first snap in the red zone. Those calls shouldn't be random. They're your chance to stay aggressive and intentional. Here's the segment from me on openers and firsts.
Another part of what we plan is the openers. We want to script these. For us, it's typically been 10 is a magic number. Now we have scripted up to 15. But we really feel good about within those first 10 plays being able to look at some things we need, establish some things, break some tendencies, etc. So some reason to script openers, and this is something that you get from Brian Billick or reading Bill Walsh, and it's pressure-free decision-making. As Bill Walsh says in his book, making those decisions from the cool and calm of the office rather than pressure decisions on game day. There's no reason to not know what your first 10 to 15 are going to be. Gives you a great opportunity to establish any run or pass ratio that you want. Certainly your creativity can come out here as you're looking at utilizing maybe some different shifts, motions, etc. You're looking for and you want to see the defensive alignment and reaction. What are the rotations going to be? How are they going to align against certain formations? What are they going to do against certain motions, etc.? It's a good opportunity to establish with the assistants that this is what we need you to watch during the game. And getting them in a rhythm for some of the things they're looking for. They know beforehand and can take some notes on their opener sheet on specific things they want to look for and relay to the play caller. Great opportunity to get a quarterback into rhythm. This is your opportunity to say, here's some of his best passes. We want to get him into his rhythm by calling these. It's the opportunity to script specials and shots. And the other aspect is you can allow players to prepare mentally. As we got into this and we utilized the technology with Huddle, we would always go through and take practice film of our openers being run in order and send those out the night before a game on a playlist so our players could study that and get themselves mentally prepared for what's going to happen. So the openers are going to be those 10 to 15 scripted plays. Now I know Bill Walsh, Billick, those guys scripted a lot more. Again, for us, 10 to 15 was a good area for us to understand what we wanted to do and what we wanted to look for. You don't want to worry about what if it's third down and it's a run call. You're going to go off the script to your situations and handle that there, right? That's what that's for. So if you run the first down play, you run the second down play, and you end up in third and long, you're just going to go to your third and long section on that game plan. You pick up the first down, you go right back to your openers. Or, as we'll talk a lot about later, it could be some of your firsts in here. Same thing, red zone, goal line. If you end up there, you make that decision. Am I going to my goal line package? Do I still like the call? There's been times where we liked the call that was available for a third down or in the red zone or potentially even on the goal line. Again, when you convert, you just go back on script. And you're going to call until you get through those openers. We were pretty disciplined about that. We had time to think about those things we wanted to establish, things we wanted to see from the defense in order to make our own adjustments. And then, as I mentioned before, you can work your firsts into the play calling as well, and we'll get into those in a second. So your first or your reactive offense. These are things, again, you can establish ahead of time. Thinking about what are you going to do, what's going to be your first call when you face a certain situation. And here's some examples. First down after a big run. First down after a big completion. A 1st and 5, right? You get that 5-yard penalty. What do you want to do on a 1st and 5? First down after a big penalty. Maybe they get a 10-yarder or a 15-yarder. Is there something you want to call after that? Are they a little bit emotional about what's happened? You have an opportunity to hit them with something. Your first call in the red zone or pre-red zone. Do you want to take a shot? What's that shot going to be? Call after a sack or a big loss. So you get behind schedule. What's the call you want? The best call you have to get yourself back on schedule. Your first call after they turn it over, right? They have a turnover. Do you want to take a shot? What's the play you want to go to after that? And likewise, thinking about what are you going to do when you get back onto the field after a turnover? Is there something you want to call that's going to settle your offense in?
Every offensive script seeks rhythm and control. On defense, that same discipline shows up in how you plan and time your pressures. Up next is Brian Michalowski, linebackers coach at Oregon, sharing how to build a pressure plan rooted in self-scouting, player strengths, and smart sequencing. Here's Coach Michalowski.
Let's get to it. Starting off with this quote that I really like right here. It's Sun Tzu, know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. In order for you to be successful, you really have to know yourself first, self-awareness, and really knowing, especially as a coach, your personnel. So when we think about how to create a pressure plan, we're really looking at first like our personnel, who can execute a role, who's going to win a one-on-one, who do we want in the rush, who do we want to cover, and if we are going to drop out a D lineman, right, 1 out of 10 times, right, he can do that, right? If there's a 50-50 linebacker, right, rush and coverage. And then, we might bring a corner, right, that has blitz ability. And then we might bring, have a corner cover if he doesn't have blitz ability. So just knowing your personnel when you're creating pressure packages. And then it's about, having an understanding of what your players know and what the techniques that you've put in and how they carry over, because, a crash stunt's a crash stunt, a weak hook is a weak hook. Blitz contain and having a peel, which we call spear in the system, is what it is. So if there's some carryover that you could create with new pressures and create same as, that's always what we want to try and create as a coach. And then also, understanding within pressures, where are we going to be vulnerable, and what's the situations in the game that we're calling a pressure, and what are we willing to give away. So if the void is the flat, right, we're willing to give that up. If we're playing man-to-man defense and we're making the ball be thrown outside, we better have corners that could cover. So just understanding where you're vulnerable. When are we going to run a pressure? Situation dictates that, obviously, the down and distance, the time for the routes to develop, right, and how quick a pressure can be, or how developing it can be, the field zone, right, the tighter the field zone, the quicker the pressure, and the score, right, and how much you're willing to risk, and then also sequencing, how are we setting up pressure looks. So, how do you have one look, right? And then that might confirm the protection that you think that you're going to get in the game, and that you can bring that design pressure to attack that protection. And then, why are we calling it? Sometimes with pressures, it's about strategically adding to your pressure look. So as we went through our season last season, okay, how were we going throughout the year and adding pressured looks that are a lot of same as concepts and same as calls, but different presentations of the offensive line, and creating multiple looks.
Finally, we turn to the third phase, where precision and purpose create momentum. Ben Kutwika, special teams coach for the Los Angeles Rams, discusses two powerful themes: having a defined mission for every play, in this case punt, and teaching through technology to get more reps with fewer resources. He draws on his military background and NFL experience to show how focus and innovation build special teams that win the hidden yardage battle. Here's Coach Kotwika.
To do. I'm not saying you got to use these metrics, but I would have a mission. Again, it's a little bit of my military background is what are we trying to get out of this phase or this play, and that outlines it right there. And then the bottom I would tell you is what is the composition of your unit. Oftentimes you'll hear, hey, do you play starters on special teams? Well, yes, if they're better than the players that are the backups that are playing there, but we're really looking for physical, relentless, productive players. And so in this phase of the game, we just really have to make sure that we can trust those players because we've got to be able to get the ball delivered. And there's not many other phases where you can, there's no other phase where you transition from blocking to tackling. You're really executing offensive tasks, blocking, and then you're transitioning to getting down the field and tackling. So this is a play against the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. Really love the way that we not only deliver the football there covered, but what taps out to me or pops out to me is really the energy and the emotion that our guys are playing with. And I think special teams is a momentum. Okay, last few minutes here, I'm going to talk a little bit about technology. So adapt or die, and I'll tell you what, there's some great technologies out there that can really help your team, and there's not many better than Go Army Edge. So I came to know Go Army Edge over the past few years, and so it's really been a great resource for us. It's a platform that can be used on multiple fronts. It's free. It was actually introduced as an Army recruiting tool, but it's got a great leverage position as far as teaching your players, as far as whether it's playbook or installation or visual. More and more nowadays, these players are visual learners. They're visual learners who just don't want to sit into a meeting. So sit into a meeting and listen to me talk for 30, 45 minutes. So Go Army Edge is a cloud-based teaching app. You have 2D drawing tools that come to life in a 3D animation. And we have seen this on the offensive side, the defensive side, and special teams. When I was in Minnesota, and I'll show you a few clips here, we used it there, and our players really enjoyed it. They got a lot of benefit out of it, got them out of their seats, and they were actively learning. So you have this app that's really free, and you create an account, and it really does an excellent job. So again, it's just teaching with technologies, and so sometimes you got to start thinking outside of the box and how you can adapt. So this would be a rush look for us. So this is from Go Army Edge, and so what we would end up using here is we would draw the rush patterns, much like you take your cards. Now, there is an app out there called Pro Quick Draw, which if you have film at a higher level, whether it's the NFL or college, that Pro Quick Draw can take those plays, and then it embeds it into Go Army Edge, and you don't really have to start from scratch. But in the special teams world, because it's not as elaborate, I actually like drawing these rushes because it helps me see what the opponent's doing. So what we would end up doing is we have these rushes, and then we would put this on a screen. You can see this is a 35 look, and so our players would get up there, and then the rush ends up rolling at you. And you can make these uniforms whoever you want. This is obviously the Raiders. You can give the jersey numbers and highlight them. If there's a specific player that you want to highlight or spot shadow. You can put notes on the bottom just as reminders. And so there's multiple uses for this platform. Again, this is another look, and so you can see this is me stopping with the remote, and it's all used with a cowboy now. So I don't have to use the computer, and I can time it up where once we make the call, we get these various rush looks. So this is just a couple rush looks that we used when we ended up playing the Raiders. So again, this gives the players a different way in which to view it. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So this is how we showed it when we were in Minnesota. So in Minnesota, we didn't have a walkthrough room, and I'll show you Denver's here in a second. But in Minnesota, we just had a big conference room where we do our draft meetings. And so really we had these big LED, these HD screen TVs, and now we patched and they were all together. And so we brought our players in here to execute the rushes. So I'm standing in the back. There's a controller that ends up running it. Again, you're just seeing a different color jersey. I think we were playing the Packers this week. So, we just ended up showing the different rushes and guys really liked it. So this is what it would look like. So often in our business, you hear of player development. So player development comes in multiple platforms. That could be mental, like, hey, I'm teaching them. That could be physical. That could be nutrition. And a lot of people focus in on the weight room, but especially for our younger players during the year, post-practice, we would bring what we would call our practice squad guys. And so what's really awesome about this is you don't need a scout team. So you need less resources, which is really just the players that you're using. So here we would have 7 to 8 players, whether we had the snapper or not. We'd have the guards, the tackles, the wings, and then we'd have the PPs, there. And so then we would end up executing our reps here. So this was us again in Minnesota, where we end up going through our punt protections, when we're using this space. This is us in Denver. So now we've got it on the big screen. So in Denver, we've got the projectors that are showing it onto the screen, and now we're making our calls and we're rocking and rolling. I like our tempo. And again, you have less resources here because I don't need a scout team. I don't have to have cards. And again, this is really just a meeting on the field for us. So working back, we're executing technique. So we're executing those things that I talked about: communication, alignment, stance, keys, responsibilities, and techniques. We're doing it in a controlled environment, and we're able to work. So again, here we get another look. This would be a 7 look for us, but especially for our young guys. And then we could match that up with the video itself. So guys really got a lot of use of it. So Go Army Edge is a tremendous platform. And here is the University of Wisconsin using it on the offensive line side. So you can see they're making calls. They've got their offensive linemen in a controlled environment, making mic identifications. Tremendous platform. And then on the defensive side, whether it was in Minnesota or here in Denver, you can put this on pre-snap identification, formation recognition. So making our calls on the defensive side, and it gives you various camera angles that you can do it. So this is a 3x1 set. You get the motion, whatever call you end up making, you can end up doing this. So you're getting a lot of reps here, and you can up the tempo to make it a 2-minute look. I'm just moving the camera around to show you the various viewpoints. But again, pre-snap identification, formation recognition, Go Army Edge is right in that wheelhouse. And so you can put whatever numbers, maybe you want to highlight it, maybe you want to put some notes. It has really been a great resource for us. And so here you're just showing at a different level where we have the various camera angles, talking about the techniques, the alignments, where we're at. And so this has really been a great platform for us. So here on the defensive side, you want to identify where the flat is. And then maybe this is for high school. Maybe you're just starting off and you're trying to teach cover where the zones are, right? The deep third, the deep middle of the field, the hook drops, the curl drops, and you can manipulate the camera angle to do that. So that's really what technology has done. And so Go Army Edge, you get a free app. You can just Google it and you'll be able to find it. So that'll be it. I'm going to close out here. I really appreciate the time. Again, once again, really thank Coach Luce and what he's done. It's a tremendous cause. And thanks for joining me today. Again, Coach Ben Cotweek at Denver Broncos. Great to be with you. And you all have a great weekend. Thanks.
That's it for this episode. 3 coaches, 3 ways to prepare with purpose. Whether it's scripting your openers, planning your pressures, or defining your mission on special teams, the goal is to make every rep intentional. Today's episode of Game Planning Tips was presented by Lawrence First and Goal Foundation. Lawrence First and Goal is dedicated to supporting pediatric brain tumor research and families affected by cancer. You can join their mission or register for this year's clinic soon at lawrencefirstandgoal.org. I'm Keith Grabowski. Thanks for listening, and keep refining your process as you build your plan for the week ahead.
We're proud to partner with the best companies that serve coaches. For your in-game analytics, go to modernfootball.com. When you win it all this year, Signature Championship Rings provide you a great design within your budget. Use Story of the Season for a modern version of the media guide and a way to raise $20,000 to $40,000 for your program. Go to storyoftheseason.com. Sideline communication is critical. Our partner, the Headset app, has figured out how to do that at a fraction of the cost. Check out what they do at theheadsetapp.com. Go Route offers you a way to call plays in games now if you're in Texas. And Gridiron Scout is the premier way to get plays into practice and eliminate scout cards. Check it out at goroute.com. And finally, Titan Sensors gives you the analytics you need for your players on player development and understanding their physical needs. Check out all of our sponsors and our content at coachandcoordinator.com.